Men, here's the uncomfortable truth. The minute you start editing yourself to keep the peace, you begin teaching someone that your needs are optional. Not because they're cruel, because you trained them. Self-betrayal doesn't explode your life in one day. It erodes it, grain by grain, until you don't recognize the man in the mirror. Beat. And the wild part is, the more you try to please, the less attractive you become. We're discussing behaviors in unhealthy dynamics, not generalizing to everyone. Use this to spot patterns, set boundaries, and choose healthy relationships. If you've ever felt like you're working harder and getting less affection, less respect, less consistency, that's not random. The cost of pleasing your way into connection is that it's leased, never owned. Tonight, I'll show you how guys quietly lose themselves trying to please, why it backfires, and how to reset without starting a war. The mechanism is simple. You hide your truth to keep approval. That secrecy creates a drift, tiny compromises, unspoken expectations, then resentment when your effort isn't met. It turns into a covert contract. I'll overgive and you will love me for it. But because it's unspoken, it keeps failing. Here's where most men get blindsided. The drift starts with harmless lines. No worries, I'll cancel the gym. I can take that late-night call. We don't need to talk about what I want. You think you're being accommodating. What you're actually doing is teaching the relationship to run on your silence. Notice what quietly flips here. Your identity becomes reactive. You stop setting plans and start waiting for cues. You check texts like a stock ticker. When the phone pings, your mood spikes. When it doesn't, you scramble harder. That's intermittent reinforcement at work. Unpredictable rewards that train you to chase. Micro Story 1. 2 years ago, Marcus, 28, in Atlanta, started dating someone incredible. First month, he skipped jiu-jitsu twice to make date nights. Second month, he stopped going altogether because, it's fine, I'll go back later. He took on extra expenses to impress, spent weekends doing whatever she preferred, and laughed off jokes at his expense. When she pulled back, he panicked and upped the effort. The relationship didn't crash. It just faded, and Marcus realized he'd built a romance on disappearing himself. He didn't get dumped. He drifted out of his own life. Which brings us to the part nobody tells you. When you overplease, you create pressure for your partner to be the keeper of your happiness. That's heavy. Some partners respond by stepping up. In toxic dynamics, others respond by taking more, because your yes has no friction. Here are the subtle scenes that show up. You start apologizing for normal preferences. Sorry, I'm tired. Sorry, I need a quiet night. You rephrase your boundaries into requests. Would it be okay if I don't lend money this time? Your calendar shrinks. Friends unseen, hobbies untouched, while your availability balloons. You solve problems that weren't handed to you. You fix instead of feeling. Hold that thought, because the real test shows up here. You notice your compliments land flatter. Your romantic effort feels like background noise. Why? Because you trained the dynamic to expect maximum give without needing to earn it. Attraction needs contrast. Two humans with edges, not one endless cushion. Let me make it concrete with the language that trips men up. Translation block 1. They say, do whatever you want. Or, in Hinglish, yo chahe Carlo. Could mean, I haven't decided how I feel. I'm testing if you'll lead calmly. Verify by, cool, I'm leaning toward a night in to recharge. How's Saturday brunch? Respond with, I'm choosing an early night. We'll catch up tomorrow. You see the difference? You don't debate. You decide, then include. That steadiness prevents resentment later. Here's where most men get blindsided again. The silent scoreboard. You start tallying your sacrifices. I drove an hour. I paid for the trip. I listened to her rant about work. But you never said what you needed in return. Your generosity becomes a bid that no one knows how to answer. And when it goes unmet, you get bitter, She gets confused, and both of you lose trust. Why does this happen psychologically? Part of it is the fawn response, anxious systems that learned safety through appeasement. Part of it is dopamine, the hit you get when your pleasing gets a reward, even if it's inconsistent. And part is social conditioning. Many men were taught that being nice is the strategy, when real connection comes from clarity plus care. Micro Story 2. Imran, 33, in Dubai, runs a small design studio. He fell for a woman who loved big weekends and last-minute adventures. He loved her spirit, but he quietly absorbed the costs, time, money, sleep, until his work suffered. One Sunday, after a 4-hour drive back from a spontaneous beach party, he was exhausted and irritable. Instead of erupting, he made tea, sat her down, and said, lower, "I love us and I need rhythm. Fridays for friends, Saturdays we plan by Thursday noon, Sundays are my reset. If we want spontaneity, we pick one weekend a month." She tested him twice. He held the line calmly. The relationship actually improved, not because he pleased more, but because he led with clarity. Let's decode another common trap. Translation block 2. They say, "It's fine, I don't care." Could mean, "I care, but I don't want to be the only one pushing." Verify by, "I'm hearing you're neutral or maybe hesitant. On a scale of 1 to 10, where are you?" Respond with, "I'll set the plan, and if you change your mind, tell me by 6. Notice what happens next. Once you stop outsourcing decisions, respect creeps back in. People may test you, but they can feel your spine. You're easier to love because you're easier to read. Here's the part nobody tells you about people-pleasing. It's not kindness, it's control. Not in a sinister way, just in a scared way. If I give enough, you won't leave. But that script asks someone to validate a man you're not allowing yourself to be. Your partner cannot rescue the version of you that keeps hiding. Let's make this practical. You need a simple operating system. Tell the truth early, set structures, and follow through. Not with anger, anyone can bark. With presence. Pause. And yes, there will be moments where you feel guilt for choosing yourself. That's old wiring. Walk through it. Quick checklist to anchor your moves. Name your top 3 non-negotiables weekly. Sleep, training, work focus. Set 2 recurring plans that don't depend on anyone's mood. Gym times, friend dinner. When a request collides with a value, state your value and offer an alternative. Ask clean questions once. If answers drift, align your actions, not your tone. Boundary scripts you can copy-paste into your nervous system. I don't chase or police. I ask direct questions once, then align my actions with the clarity I get. If the story keeps changing, I'll pause intimacy and logistics until we're honest again. I prefer clarity over confusion. I don't negotiate my rest or my word. If I said I'm off at 10, I'm off at 10. I'm happy to help, but I don't overextend. If we need more, we plan more. Now, you might be wondering, what if my partner labels this as selfish? Translation block 3. They say, "Wow, you've changed." Could mean, "You're setting boundaries I'm not used to." Verify by, "Yes, I'm being more direct." Does that feel scary or refreshing to you? Respond with, "I want us to work as a team, 2 adults with preferences, not one person managing both." Here's where most men stumble after setting boundaries. They over-explain. They give TED Talks on why they need sleep or time with friends. Your boundary isn't a closing argument. It's an update. Say it cleanly, offer options, then stand still. The stillness is what makes people trust you. Also, stop trying to outwork ambivalence. If you feel someone's energy pulling away, do less and see what returns. That's calm verification over accusation. No detective work, no surveillance. Just alignment. You read the pattern, not the promises. Why this works. Relationships are feedback loops. When you show that your self-respect is not for sale, you become safer. Not because you're rigid, but because you're predictable. That predictability is the soil where attraction and intimacy grow. Even in spicy, high-energy dynamics, someone needs to hold the frame, and that someone can be you without being controlling. Let me give you a grounded moment you can repeat. Imagine it's Thursday night. You planned to sleep early. A text comes in. Everyone's going out. Come. Old, you says yes, then resents it. New you replies, I'm keeping my early night. Have fun. Brunch Saturday? You're not denying connection. You're steering it into a lane you can drive. And if you catch yourself mid-people please, stop, breathe, name what you want in one sentence, then ask for it. Will it always be welcomed? No. But the goal isn't constant agreement. It's congruence. Because a man who lives congruent is both easier to respect and harder to replace. Identity reframe. You're not here to audition for love. You're here to partner in it. Partners bring a self to the table. A self with preferences, standards, and rhythms. When you prioritize boundaries over surveillance and verification over accusation, you move out of fear and into leadership. Leadership doesn't mean you always decide. It means you always decide who you are. If you've lost yourself, start small. Reclaim one habit that makes you proud. Training, reading, prayer, building. Keep it even when romance accelerates. Tell the truth about money. Tell the truth about time. Say no without panic and yes without overpaying. And if a dynamic turns toxic, stonewalling, guilt trips, name-calling, don't therapize it to death. Step back with dignity. Here's where most men get blindsided. One last time. The moment you assert yourself, you'll feel the cold wind of old fears. What if she leaves? Let the fear be there. Then remember the real loss is leaving yourself. If someone only loves you when you're gone, that's not love. That's convenience. So choose the harder path now to prevent the heartbreak later. Replace pleasing with presence, fixing with listening, and overgiving with earned generosity. When something matters, take the lead and invite. When something conflicts, offer alternatives without apology. And if your standard isn't met consistently, align your distance, not your voice. You don't have to become harsh to stop being soft. You have to become honest. That honesty is your anchor. It keeps you steady through tests. It makes your yes meaningful, and it protects the man you're becoming. He's worth protecting. He's the reason you're here. Subscribe for more grounded guidance you can actually use.